that not only accelerates every stage of software development, but also transforms how your team manages code, projects, and information. Accelerate, crafted by ThoughtMinds, makes this vision a reality by using AI to enhance and streamline software development from ideation to maintenance. Welcome to Follow Startups. I'm your host Ankita Pahwa, and today we are delighted to have Rinish, the co-founder and CEO of ThoughtMinds, with us. Rinish's impressive history of driving tech innovation and his expertise in AI and digital transformation is sure to provide valuable insights into how Accelerate is reshaping the industry. So, hi Rinish, welcome to Follow Startups.
Yeah, thanks, Ankita.
It's wonderful to have you here, Anish. We also had the pleasure of hosting Samrat last week, where he gave us an in-depth look at Thought Minds and also, your first product, Sales Minds. So, with that solid foundation already in place, I'm excited to dive into Accelerate today. So, could you start by giving us a quick introduction of yourself and share how Accelerate came into being?
Okay, sure. So maybe I'll also give a quick introduction about myself. Uh, you know, and I'll tell you where exactly my journey comes to Accelerate. It's not just my thought in the last couple of years. So I started my career as a developer, way back in 2000, and so then I worked in many companies like Wipro, Oracle, and a bunch of other startups as well. And then I found a company in 2010 called Rapid Value, and then we exited, and then we started ThoughtMinds, right? So Rapid Value was a digital transformation company, and majority of the time our problem was like the developers, or I'm not saying that they're not productive, but actually most of the time there are enough situations where we should be able to reuse code. We should be able to, because that was some done by maybe their peers, but still, a new guy comes in and he'll try to generate the code by himself, right? So it takes a lot of time in terms of generating a code, or writing a code or development. So that time itself, we were thinking, how can I automate the entire process, right? The entire SDLC. How can we accelerate the SDLC process? Because we are doing the same thing day in and out, the same thing, right? I mean, repetitive tasks. So how do we do that? How do we to do something? So that's where when the Gen AI comes in, majority of the big players like AWS, Azure, and Google, so they focus on code generation side, right? If you give the requirements, it'll generate the code. But for me, generating or development of code is just like 30 to 40% of the entire SDLC, right? The rest of the 70% or 60%, is on your requirements, your design, then testing, and then finally DevOps and deployment, right? Only everyone is addressing just the coding part, with a very minimal context, right? Coding is like, majority of the tools out there which are autocomplete based on your previous code base, or, your current code base or your current files. So where Accelerate comes in is that Accelerate starts from your requirements. Okay. So you give a requirements, it will help you to come up with the user stories. It will help you to come up with the tasks, and it will help you to come up with the estimates, right? So that is the two, three steps, uh, beyond, or above your coding, right? So and then Accelerate will do only that, and then after that, once the code is done, you have a huge repository developed by like maybe hundreds or thousands of people, right? So where what we are doing is that Accelerate can actually talk to your entire code base, which is already been written, maybe now or maybe in the past, and actually it can help you in maintaining the code. For example, if you get a bug, okay, you don't
Hmm.
need to. I mean, typically when it comes to a developer, the developer will goes to once the bug is assigned to him, he'll
Hmm.
figure out where the bug is, right? Using the typical bug analysis process, right? Defect resolution process. You look at where the code is, you try to reproduce it, then you look at the code. That code might have written by him, or might have written by someone else. It might have written recently, or it might have written 10 years back, right? And maybe the technology which a developer is not familiar with, okay, or maybe the previous versions of the code. So the system or the Accelerate can tell you that, okay, this has happened because of XYZ reason, and this is in this one, coding in the source files ABC on the front end. Typically in a software development, you have a front end code which is written in React, Angular, or maybe HTML, CSS, and the backend will be like Node, React, Node, Java, .NET, and PHP
Hmm.
or whatnot, right? So it can tell you exactly where the problem is and how to sort it out, right? And at the same time, most of the time, the AI may not be able to just, or Accelerate may not be able to get it from your description. So the Accelerate will keep asking you questions. Okay, can I get a log file? When it happened, how it happened. Can you give me the description about, is there any specific thing, you have done? So based on all these system or the Accelerate will, ask and then create more context and it fixes the bug. So that's how the Accelerate has been. So we don't touch on the code generation, but we are leaving to the rest of
Got
the
it.
world to do that. And the all other side of things, we are doing as part of Accelerate.
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing that. In fact, I know Accelerate is packed with some impressive tools like, to name some Business Genie, Code Genie, and Knowledge Genie. Can you walk us through each of these and how they cater to different stages of software development and maintenance?
Right, sure. So Business Genie, the thing is that, so when it comes to a software development, right, the first thing is that your requirements. What are you going to build, right? Typically, that will be taken care by the product managers. So what they do is, they conduct different workshops and then and come up with the requirements, right? So what Business Genie does is that Business Genie act as a co-pilot to the product managers. So when they are, when they are defining a requirement, they can give a one-liner or two-liner, and then
Hmm.
it'll actually generate the epics and this user stories for the product manager, right? So it also learns from the previously done projects. Okay, it's not something, typically when you give to any AI tools right now, it'll also generate the user stories for you, but it's a very no context to it, right? But what actually does is that even if you have a previously done projects in the organization, in the enterprises, it'll ask like, what are the projects have you done in the past? Then get me all the documents. And then
Hmm.
from there, it'll actually understand and learn about that enterprise and then generate the requirements for the product managers. And once the requirements is written, and the biggest serious task is that documentation, right?
Hmm.
You know the requirements and how do you document it? Even if you typically what I have seen is that uh, not all product managers will go deeper into the level where a developer needs it, right?
Yeah.
So typically a user story would require like the acceptance criteria, which most of the people don't fill it in. Okay, so what we have done is that we make sure that every user story or every epic to the as detailed as possible, and also we, in case required, we convert into Gherkin, which is a language which, it's not a language as such, but it's a templatized, a template for requirement gathering. So it can generate the Gherkin template as well. So once your requirement is there, then what you need next is that, you wanted to convert this into tasks, right? For
Hmm.
the developers to work on a day-to-day basis. And this will also do that tasks. Okay. And the items which we are working on right now is that, the next thing is that, how do you put together this as a workflow, right? Or a wireframe, right? So what we are trying to do right now is that, from the requirements, how can I generate wireframes? There are a lot of tools out there where these guys are using, the product manager is used to come up with the wireframes, including Figma. So what we are trying to do is that, we are trying to generate the wireframes from the requirements so that that will be added to the user stories. So that, we are not trying to like, generate this, there's a difference, like copilot and an autopilot. We just a copilot to the product manager so that we'll make their lives much more easy. They can focus on the requirements than like, doing these kind of a, repetitive tasks, right? Writing Gherkins or, acceptance criteria, that will be taken care of with Accelerate. So that is what the Business Genie does.
Got it.
Okay.
In fact, a code-based Genie also has this ability to learn from the past defects, correct? So tell me, how
Exactly.
does that feature work in practice and
The
what
code,
impact does it have on the developers' performances?
right. Codebase Genie, what it does is that, what, many developers or even any organization faces is that, we in software world, we say that if it is working, let it work. Let's not touch it, right?
Mm.
So maybe that would have written in maybe 20 years back using maybe earlier Java, J2E, JSP, those kind of world, or ASP or PHP, whatever, right? But even now we are using it because it's working and no one wanted to touch it. It's a huge effort, like, converting that into your latest generation technologies, right? Because of that, the current set of this young generation developers, they don't want to like, work on like an old technologies, right? They'll say, oh, that impacts their career as well. But that, what we do is that, so we need the repositories or a source code where, which is required for that specific project. And from there, we learn many things, okay, from the code. And also, we'll ask, maybe there are maybe hundreds of defects would have happened during the testing phase or maybe during the production phase, right? So that bug history also will take it so that we understand that, okay, these are the type of bugs happens, and then our Axel learns from the previously defect, fixed bugs. Okay. And from there, bugs, your requirement documents, if any, or your, previously bug resolution document, or any other documents, design document, anything. So whatever documents you have, you can dump it to Accelerate so that it has more and more context about what you are asking. Okay, so based on that, whenever a bug happens, you can ask that bugs to the Accelerate and it will tell you where exactly it happened.
Hmm. So, Renish, who would you say is your primary target audience for Accelerate? Are there any specific industries or types of companies that would benefit the most from this product?
Anyone who is doing software development. Yeah.
So, Renish, I understand that Accelerate is positioned as a tool that significantly enhances productivity. So, tell us, how have
Mm.
you seen it change the workflow and output of teams who have adopted it? Maybe, an example or a case study would help.
Right. So one of our customer, they've been using Java JSP based technology in the US, and so for their problem is also that every releases it has one or other breakage because of bugs and other breakages happens. And the customer also complains a lot about their previously this application which they are catering. But the thing is that it's a huge application, so they don't want to touch it. If they wanted to convert that in latest generation languages, it's going to take cost them millions. So because of that, they did not move ahead. So what we did was, we have actually utilized Accelerate to connect with their source code or the code repository, and now with an accuracy of 60 to 65%, you are able to identify the defects. So that is that that's I'm saying that exact defects, right? When the customer or whenever their support team gets a defect, they are able to figure out where exactly the problem is and the solution within no
Hmm.
time, maybe 2 3 minutes. The time is that you just need to enter the details in the Accelerate console, you will get it. And the rest other cases, Accelerate may not be able to figure out where the bug is, but Accelerate will actually give them some pointers. Okay, you could look at this module, this
Hmm.
place, that place, to figure out the bugs.
Amazing. So, Rinish, as we stand in the present, where would you position Accelerate in terms of its current stage of growth?
Um, Currently, there is one more thing which I missed it is that Knowledge Genie. This is again, many of the developers on their day-to-day life, they deal with many things, right? API documentation, they have to go to Swagger, or maybe their requirements are fed in Jira, or maybe tasks are fed in Jira, and requirements are there in some other place. And many things have been scattered across multiple places. What we did was, we created a single interface. Using that, the developers can ask, okay, what are my tasks today? Okay,
Hmm.
how can I do this task? Okay, and then what is the API specification for this particular API? And what are this requirement? Can you detail it out? So everything is in one place, but we integrated with all the applications developers are using it on a daily basis. So that is a knowledge genie in one of the module which we have. On to answer your question, where are we placing Accelerate at this point is that we are not licensing Accelerate at this point because we wanted to have more and more features to be added so that it has all the bells and whistles to or the enough muscles to compete with the other international products. So what we are doing right now is that our developers are trained on this Accelerate, and then we are providing Accelerate plus developers at this point. Let's say a customer comes in, so what
Hmm.
we offer them is that we have a team where they use Accelerate and they deliver much faster than your developers. And we are extending that whoever is our customers, we are extending that tool to that customer as well for their teams.
Got it, got it. But so would you like to share, any significant business numbers or metrics that you're very proud of, which are related to Accelerate's growth?
Like I said, so I was, when this generative AI comes in, right, I was never confident that, how good is the code it going to generate.
Hmm.
And when I started playing around with the bug fixing, right, I was also thinking how this bug fixing work. right? Will
Hmm.
it really works, or it's I'm just like shooting in the dark. So, but what surprisingly, we are able to solve it, and if you ask me what is the number which I'm really, really happy about, it's the bug fixing time, right?
Hmm.
For any developer, no matter what, even if it's like a spelling mistake in a screen, figuring out where it is, if it's not something done by you, it's very difficult to figure out where it is, right? At least it'll take maybe at 30 minutes to figure out where it is, but system will tell you in 2 minutes or maybe a minute. You just need to enter the data. So I was so happy and overwhelmed to see the response from our Accelerate about the bug fixing. It is seriously, it is you trust me, it is 4x times.
So, Renish, security is obviously a very, it's a top concern for any enterprise.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Xccelerate offers secure VPC deployment and end-to-end encryption, correct? Could you elaborate on
That's
how
right.
these features ensure that customers' data remains safe and isolated?
Exactly. So two things, here, Angita. One is that, so Accelerate is not a SaaS product. It is a on-prem product, on-prem or, on their VPC kind of a deployment product. So if the customer has a cloud, we will be able to deploy it on their customer cloud. We will not take away any of their data. But we utilize, Cloud and OpenAI to do this. So
Okay,
that's one, it goes out of their VPC network. The API calls will go out of their network. But if it's Azure, we use Azure OpenAI. Azure OpenAI is very, they have a strict, contract with the customer that they'll not use customer data or anything to train their models, right? OpenAI models, and that way, if it is Azure, none of these, LLMs, they don't use the customer data to train their models, is what I understand. But at the same time, what our solution is that our solution sits on customer premises, not on our premises. We are not a SaaS provider. We put everything on the customer VPC.
hmm,
And also, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to customize an open source LLM so that that LLM belongs to us, so that nothing will go out. So everything will be in the customer environment, not even we don't leverage OpenAI or cloud for that.
got it, got it. Well, that answers my question. Now, Renish, let's talk about the business side of things. So, tell us what is the revenue model for Accelerate and how does it sustain itself financially?
Yeah, so like I said, Accelerate is currently, I'm not offering it as a solution or a
Yeah.
product. Okay, but my plan is that, or our plan is that, maybe next year, second quarter, we wanted to offer it as a solution to our customers, where it's like, licensable product, right? So currently it's in the early stage, or early stage, I would say that it's not in, like, you know, which does not have all the features which an enterprise needs. So we are building that side of things, and then that will be done next year. And then after that, we'll offer this as a licensed products. But now what we are telling our customers is that our developers are trained on this. Okay,
Hmm.
work with our developers, you get the productivity. And if you work with us, you will also open up the Accelerate for you.
So, are there any upcoming features or developments that we can look forward to? Like you said, a lot is planned for the next year. So, give us a sneak peek.
A couple of features which we are planning to do this year is that, on the defect side itself, right? Defect, first of all, the defect history, right? That module is still in the very early stage. We are able to understand from the previously, resolved bugs. And also what we want to do is that we want to also analyze the log files. So that is another one which you're working on right now. So there are a bunch of logs both on the front end and the back end and in many other places, right? That is another one. And also, one more feature we are working on is that how do we understand the entire enterprise architecture, right? Typically, when it deployed in an enterprise, you'll have a enterprise ERP or it's a complex architecture any enterprises will have. How does the Accelerate can understand that, okay, this is the enterprise architecture. When there is a bug happens, it's not just in my code. It could be like, maybe an integration or API call would have failed, right? So those are the things, we are now trying to work upon.
Got it. Are there any, particular markets or industries that you are looking to tap into?
No, so we are playing definitely the market is like, we are playing in US market at this point, but this is industry wise, we are playing a horizontal play because,
Okay.
it's a technology game, not a horizontal play.
Okay,
So
okay.
we're not a vertical player.
So, Rinish, the insights that you have shared today have given us a thorough understanding of Accelerate's potential. Now, before we wrap this up, is there anything else that you would like to add?
One of the thing, many times I hear from many of our customers is that, are you using generative AI for your development? Then they will say, I am, but I am using a code generator. Okay. So, and then my follow-up question is, are you getting any productivity improvement? Most of them
Hmm.
said no, because there are like, the process improvement, Gen AI actually just got in. What you need is a process change, right? So that process change has to be there, because, you are given, let's say, for example, you are using Microsoft PowerPoint now, and then you are using Copilot. But earlier you take 10 hours and then you are now using only 8 hours to do it, right? Because you save 20% or whatever number it is, right? But your manager used to give you the same amount before that, 10 hours to do the work. In that case, your organization will never benefit of like, giving you the Copilot or any of these generative AI tools,
Yeah.
right? So the important thing is that the process has to change, the estimation methodology has to change, and the entire organization or the entire company should think in that Gen AI way. Then only the productivity or anything will be in place. Else, whether you use Accelerate or any tools in the world, you are not going to get any benefit out of it. And also that, the developers who are getting into a dangerous zone now, I'm not talking about their jobs. I'm talking about their IQ level, because earlier at least they copy paste from Google. When they look at what they're copy pasting, now they don't even know what they're copy pasting. Okay. So because of that, if something goes wrong, or what is the best practices to build a React.js application? Okay, they don't know, so they are just copy pasting from one of the maybe one of the models spit out that code, right? So these all has to be handled. Else, this is going to be like I mean,
Yeah.
you'll see a product, instead of saving the productivity, you will see a productivity loss.
Oh, yeah, correct. So, with the rapid advancements in AI, what opportunities do you see on the horizon for Accelerate?
Uh, yeah, because we are also depending upon the publicly available LLM, or
Hmm.
maybe open source LLMs, right? And the thing is that I am seeing this specific area, the coding side or the bug fixing side. There will be lot of things going to come in the near future from the large LLMs, the open source LLM,
Hmm.
or LLM side itself. And we'll piggyback with them in terms of like, as and when more features are getting added to the LLMs, we will have more and more features on the Accelerate as well.
Absolutely. So, Rinish, how can the follow startups community support ThoughtMinds as and particularly Accelerate in this journey? This is your call for support. So, since we are going to promote this interview to large enterprises and the entire startup ecosystem, is there anything that we can help you with?
Right. So what we could do is that we could actually develop software at least 2x faster than any other people, because we have Accelerate, right? And also we are a company born in this generative AI era, and the entire team here in ThoughtMinds are trained on generative AI, trained on generative AI tools. So we are a company where if you focus on productivity and Accelerate, right? So because of that, any startups, they wanted to build their product much faster with with lowest cost in terms of like, because, we take only half of the time of others. So we are happy to work with them.
So, now before I let you go, I want you to make a wish for your startup that you hope comes true in the near future, and you have to make that wish out loud.
End of the day, even actually my previous startup and this startup, so my idea has always been that working with the right set of people, right? So that's what actually, which gives me some, kick in the life, right? So I
Hmm.
always love to, I always love to be in the middle of the people. I'm that kind of a person. And so my thing is that I wanted to build this company with provide the right career for our people. And also like, I wanted to take this to a company which is recognizable in the international world, right? That, or Accelerate, or even our sales minds, the company, we should be the top leader in, I'm not saying that the other than the biggies, we wanted to be one of the top 10 players who in the same space on
Hmm.
the Accelerate. I mean, in the sense I'm code generation, bug fixing, sales, prospecting, those areas. We wanted to be the leaders, at least the top 10 in the category.
Rinish, I hope this was worthy of your time. Thank you so much for such an engaging conversation.